Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about one of the most important aspects of 2024, which is a conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus, which is happening on the 20th of April. Now, this is it's happening at 21 degrees, 49 minutes of Taurus. Now, this is around about a 13 to 14-year cycle from conjunction to conjunction, but it's going to be more important this year for several reasons. Firstly, Pluto, as we know, has moved into Aquarius, and Pluto intensifies the energy, the symbolism of any sign it's moving through. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So Pluto is intensifying that Aquarian, Uranian energy, and Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So Jupiter is expanding that energy. So those are the astrological reasons, but also if we look at the broader picture, as you know, cosmologically, we're at the end of the precessional cycle. We're moving through the galactic current sheet. We're moving through the photon belt. We're in solar cycle 25, which is actually peaking early in 2024. We have a lot of solar activity right now. There are many other cosmological factors, a much more unstable ionosphere, which is partly due to natural causes, things like the solar flares. It's also partly due to unnatural causes, satellites, 5G, etc., EMFs, that kind of thing. So the whole mix of those is adding to this kind of destabilization of the ionosphere. And that's really Uranus in Taurus, actually. Uranus is not a stable planet. It's a very exciting planet. And it's also in Taurus connected to the Earth, to Gaia. So there's a lot to say about this. And I'm going to show you a chart in a moment, which I hope will kind of capture some of these themes. But just to say, see where 21 degrees, 49 minutes of Taurus falls in your chart. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website. This is a great opportunity to get the two-part teaching video from the link below, because that will show you where this conjunction is landing in your own birth chart, and that will give you some real foresight in terms of how this may be unfolding for you. Now, although it's specific to one day, 20th of April, the effect of this will really be feeling it. I think even end of March, with that lunar eclipse in Libra going into the very important solar eclipse in Aries on the 8th. And then, as I say, this happens on the 20th. So there's a whole energetic setup for this. And even after that, I believe that this could create some kind of spark, very good word for Uranus because it's very electrical, spark or trigger or ignition point for all that follows after that. And you'll get a better idea of what I mean as we move through this. But if you have any planets round about 2149 of Taurus, this will be more important for you in terms of its impact. If you have an emphasis in Taurus, if you're born roughly any year between the 5th and the 18th of May, and specifically round about the 10th or the 11th of May, you will be feeling this strongly. And again, the best idea is to find out exactly where your sun is by getting a free birth chart. The orb of this, I would say, is round about 3 degrees. So 3 degrees either way, so kind of 18 to 23 of Taurus. So that means that if you have any planets between 18 and 23 degrees of the fixed signs, and they are obviously Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, you'll be feeling this strongly because it will be in conjunction or square hard aspect to those planets, or an angle, ascendant midheaven, descendant IC. You'll be feeling this quite intensely, I would say. And if you have any planets 18 to 23 degrees in the other earth signs, such as Virgo or Capricorn, you're also likely to feel it more strongly. If you have a strong Jupiter or a strong Uranus in your chart, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what equals a strong planet, because we'll be here for days, but if you know that, then this will have more impact. Or if you have a natal aspect between Jupiter and Uranus, you will feel it more strongly. So I hope that covers all of the options. But this is quite an exciting conjunction. It's generally viewed as very positive. It's kind of a big leap in many ways, you know, new horizons, whole new ground. And it tends to be very prominent in the charts of cycle breakers, visionaries, trailblazers. As you will see, I'll mention a couple of people a little bit later in the video. And again, you'll get a good idea from that. So let me just share the chart with you. I'm only going to do this for a brief time, really, and then go into more detail. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Now, this is just a kind of scattergun of possible meanings. Now, every planet and also every aspect is like a multifaceted diamond. There are many possibilities of manifestation with them. Personally, I don't know as an astrologer what the specific events or experiences are going to be of this conjunction. I don't really work psychically. Yes, we're all very intuitive, but I don't consider myself as a psychic, so other psychics may have much more specific visions about this. But I just can feel the energy, read the timing, and give you a whole kind of Indra's net, as it were, of possibilities that may come up based on the symbolism, but also based on how it's played out in the past. Now, Jupiter and Uranus actually, between them, are very comfortable bedfellows because they share many similarities. They are both very much about the future. They're both connected to kind of future visions and very much planets of moving forwards as well. And that, as I say, Uranus is quite electrical, so Jupiter's going to expand that aspect of Uranus. They are both very much about freedom and revolution. They have no boundaries, really. This is coming down here. They have no boundaries. They don't want to be hemmed in. They are both very different from Saturn. Saturn, that's all about boundaries, walls, divisions, separations, etc. So they're both very different. Jupiter is to do with higher consciousness, wisdom. It's to do with far distance travel. Mercury tends to be short distance, close to home. Jupiter is long distance travel. It's when you go on a big trip. I mean, it would even cover space travel, actually. It's the kind of reaching out to the cosmos. So it's the adventurer, the explorer, the opportunist, somebody who's very spontaneous, you know, would have a strong Jupiter and or Uranus, actually, that they want to, yep, off we go. It's another adventure. Let's go and explore. So the traveler, the explorer, the adventurer, always wanting to find new ground. It's a very restless energy. Uranus is really very connected to the outsider, if you like, the maverick, the galactic being, the one who doesn't fit. It's very connected to the out there, because in myth, Uranus was the sky god, so it's very connected to aviation, but it's very connected, as I say, to galactic beings, of which, you know, we are one, because we are also galactic beings, but there's a sense of being different. And so this is really going to help anybody who feels different, who feels like the outsider, the one who doesn't fit, the one who hasn't fitted, particularly in recent times, because it gives you confidence in your kind of your altruism, I want to say, but also in your uniqueness. It gives you confidence in your unique essence. And these, of course, are very much, very often the drivers of new ideas in society. So if Jupiter is equivalent to higher consciousness, Uranus is connected to higher mind. It's very much connected to the mind, but both of them are connected to freedom and revolution in a big way. And I'll give you some examples as we move through. I just want to pick up broad themes here. Much greater equality. Both Aquarius and its ruler Uranus are very connected to greater equality, everyone having a voice in society. It fights against elitism, it fights against top down. Particularly because this conjunction is in Taurus, it is linked to awakening and Kundalini activation. In April, I think we will have a great deal of awakening, people realizing the truth. Uranus is very connected to truth, and Jupiter's going to spill the beans, expand that. But because it's in Taurus, which is our physical body, it's also Gaia, it's the earth, but it's also our physical body, that sense of awakening, that it is going to kind of ripple through the body. So I think many people will have Kundalini activation. I also want to say that this is not smooth, linear energy. Uranus is like bolts of lightning. It's connected to electricity, and it's connected to what in quantum physics is called quanta, packets of energy. So it's discontinuous, as I say. It comes in bursts. And that's why it's also the planet of the unexpected. That's why it's often very hard to predict how Uranus transits will go, but they tend to be exciting. They tend to shake us up out of what we have already outgrown. At the soul level, at the consciousness level, it is what we have already outgrown, and therefore we step into newness, we step into variety, we step into newness. And anything which has felt stale or deadening or routine will be left behind. This will help us leave the old behind, leave the old 3D behind. It's very exciting in that way. As I say, both of them have no boundaries. Don't fence me in, don't tell me what to do. I am my own person. That's very much Uranus. And going beyond. It's interesting that with the ancient peoples, and this is still, of course, true for us today, that they and we can only see out to Saturn with the naked eye. So Uranus was I believe, the first planet to be discovered beyond the naked eye. And so therefore, it's this sense of going beyond, further out into the cosmos. And indeed, with strong Jupiter-Uranus transits, we have tended to make big discoveries further out there, going further and further out into the galaxy. Because of this kind of excitement and don't fence me in and don't want to be held back, it is this conjunction linked to risk taking. It can be linked to inflation, particularly because it's in Taurus, which is also linked to money, banking, that kind of thing. But it encourages us to take a risk. It encourages us to play our luck and take a risk. So understand that meaning, because that might help you break out of the stale, the deadening, the routine. But as I say, very connected to exploration, new discoveries, particularly linked to the out there, the cosmos, and also not only more discoveries about galactic beings. That's why I think we could get more information about galactic beings coming in at this time, more disclosure, more information in some way, but also new developments in aviation. And again, as we go through, I'll give you some specifics of how that's worked in the past. Uranus is linked to youth, very much linked to youth. And again, because this is in Taurus and Jupiter expands, I think this will really boost this whole area of healing technologies, anti-aging technologies, longevity technologies, modalities, diets, all kinds of things that can really help us live much longer and be much healthier and turn back our age. And that's, of course, reinforced by the dwarf planet mythology of Homer that I've talked about a great deal. So bring it on. Technology and science, huge area for this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. I think new developments in certainly internet, medicine, engineering, all kinds of areas that are connected to Uranus will take jumps. This conjunction, particularly Uranus, is linked to innovation in many respects. And of course, Taurus is linked to farming, food, food production, agriculture. It's also, Taurus is linked to digital financial development. And with Aquarius and Uranus energy, the direction of travel, as I've said before, is decentralized. Capricorn tends to be very centralized energy. We're moving away from that. We're moving into decentralized. And although inevitably, of course, and we're well aware of them, there are going to be attempts to centralize finance around the world, the astrological energy is very much leading us towards decentralization, even microcurrencies, communities, collaborations, grassroots up, localized living in a very different way. And this is really going to change the socioeconomic structure as we move through actually the next 20 years with Pluto in Aquarius. But this is one of the ignition points for it, a very important ignition point. Quantum leaps, as I say, it's discontinuous. Quantum leaps in our consciousness for sure. So really, I would really encourage you to focus on your spiritual practice at this time, maybe double down on that. Drop into stillness, bare feet on the grass. Decompress from a lot of the zuzzy energy, because Uranus can bring in a lot of kind of high vibe, zuzzy, scattered energy, actually. But one of the benefits of this odd mix of Uranus and Taurus is bare feet on the grass. Go to the earth to decompress and be in stillness as often as you can. Be in blank, be in no mind, be in empty mind, and just feel into your body, feel the bliss in your body. And yes, and Uranus is the planet, as I've said many times in the videos, linked to earthquakes, particularly when it's in Taurus, which is the earth. So we could see an expansion, an increase in seismic activity around this time. So those are the broad themes, some of which, of course, are entirely subjective, like awakening and Kundalini. And but I'm going to be going into more detail on some of these now as we move through. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Yes, I think another big one here is shattering belief systems, shattering Uranus, belief systems, Jupiter, shattering belief systems. And that will be part of the process of the awakening. I think April, as I've said many times, and every other astrologer is saying it, I think, is going to be one of the biggest months of the year. So this is very exciting. I also see Jupiter-Uranus as the freedom movement. Freedom, Uranus, and also Jupiter actually, but a whole movement, a whole new belief system, a whole movement, freedom movement. And what is starting in both America and Europe. And as I've mentioned before, isn't it interesting that the farmers' protests in Europe, it's to do with the farms, Taurus, the food production, the regulations around the food production. I mean, it couldn't be clearer in terms of the symbolism. But this is the beginning, I feel, of a whole freedom movement that is part of this gradual shift of the power to the people. This Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is going to reinforce the shift of the power to the people, which we've seen in historical cycles with Pluto's move into Aquarius. So let me just, I think freedom of choice with our bodies as well. Freedom, Taurus, our bodies. Freedom of choice with our bodies is going to be another big one too. There may well be other themes and expressions here. I'm sure I'm going to be adding to this as the weeks go by, but I just want to give you a flavor of what's to come. And it is going to be a jump. It's a bit of a wild card. But generally it's seen as very positive, very exciting. It can be destabilizing. There can be kind of things that happen like seismic activity that can be difficult to deal with, unexpected, difficult to deal with, but then we get through it. But broadly, the major expressions of this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction are very positive and very exciting. If we think about the rebellious revolutionary energy, again, I've talked about many times that this was very strong. It wasn't only Pluto and Aquarius that was strong in the US Revolution, and also the French Revolution, which I've talked about in so many videos recently in 1789. It's very interesting. In 1789, there was also a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Jupiter was at 6 of Leo and Uranus was at 4 of Leo. In Leo, the sign of royalty. And what did they do? The monarch was beheaded. They took down the monarchy. Again, this is so literal. So, and if we look to more recent times, some of you may remember in 1968-69, we had another Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. That was, I remember very clearly, a huge time of protests all over the world. Vietnam War, civil rights, gay liberation movement, women's liberation movement, Black Power movement, all over the world, there were protests against governments for their policies. And again, there's this sense of the people wanting a bigger say, the people taking the power back. If we look at an even more recent one, there was another Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in 2010 to 2011. You may remember that was when the Arab Spring happened. And that was in Aries, as I remember. And that was amazing because, again, it was youth. It was a youth movement. And the way that came about, and it kind of rippled across, they took down kind of fossilized leadership that had been in power for decades, and they did it by organizing their communication on social media, via the internet, on their phones, essentially. Uranus is technology, Uranus is social media, Uranus is the phones, the smartphones. And so that was kind of under the radar of the old leadership. They couldn't track it, the old leadership couldn't track it. And that was very much part of the Arab Spring, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. If we take another big theme that I've talked about is technological innovation. Isn't it interesting? I was talking about trailblazers and cycle breakers. Steve Jobs, who of course is incredibly well known for all his inventions with Apple, had a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction natally. Tim Berners-Lee, who started up the World Wide Web, had a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction natally. And the very first iPhone happened in 2007, I believe, and that was a Jupiter square Uranus. It's still a hard aspect, it's still a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And now, as we move towards this conjunction, you're getting a lot of virtual reality goggles, Quest Pro and Meta 3 and all kinds of things that sort of very much engaging youth. But that is very Jupiter-Uranus, actually. It's new technology, it's very captivating, and it gives us a whole new view, or the people, the users of it, a whole new view of our reality. And because this is in Taurus, be aware there's quite a bit of a split here, because in particular, Uranus and Taurus aren't easy bedfellows, because Uranus tends to go with the technological, the engineering, the technological solution, whereas Taurus wants to stay with the earth, with biodynamic farming, with the organic, with the natural, with the simple. So that's going to be a bit of a split potentially with this also as we move forwards. But yes, those virtual reality goggles are a very clear expression of Jupiter-Uranus. Whole new vista. Um, Going beyond with space travel. Oh, by the way, just to go further back in history, there was another example of a Jupiter-Uranus hard aspect. I think it was a conjunction which was in 1844 to 45, the invention of the telegraph. And the telegraph system was really considered the first internet, which, as some of you know, was kind of fried, taken up by the Carrington event in September 1859. But nevertheless, that was a massive technological invention at that time. Going beyond with space travel, yes, again looking at the hard aspects of Jupiter and Uranus. There was an opposition between Jupiter and Uranus, and that was going back all the way to 1782 to 83, and that was the first hot air balloon launch. And then, of course, very famously in 1899 to 1901, you had the Wright brothers, the development of gliders. Think of Uranus, the sky god. It's out there. Of course, we all, or most of us, lived through the moon landing, which was in July 1969, and remarkably, that was a Jupiter-Uranus-Pluto conjunction, a triple conjunction. But the tightness of exactitude between Jupiter and Uranus, it was in Libra actually, and it was within 3 minutes of exactitude. 3 minutes of exactitude. And that's remarkable. And yes, you may say that, whoever was planning that launch, of course, knew the astrology. Yes, of course, I'm sure they did. But nevertheless, whatever you think about that moon landing, and I know there are different views on that, as I'm sure you'll follow, nevertheless, it expanded the consciousness of people who were watching that and witnessing it and thinking, wow, this is amazing. I remember as a very young child watching that and thinking, wow, another another out there step of going beyond. In 2010, you had the first, I think it was the first 24-hour flight in a solar-powered plane. That was another conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. So, we've got very, very clear themes here. And in terms of new discoveries, that's a whole other area as well, again, out there in the cosmos. Copernicus in 1541 was actually when there was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, was actually working on his heliocentric theory then, but he delayed the publishing of his paper until 1543 because he was concerned about the wrath of the Catholic Church, and quite right, they were not pleased at all because the Catholic Church had said that the earth was the center of God's design, and here was this upstart astrologer who said, no, that's not true. The sun is the center of God's design, and the earth goes around the sun. And so he was right to be edgy about publishing that. But nevertheless, the development of his thinking was happening during the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Also, 1899 to 1901, that was really the beginning of the development of quantum physics. Think of quanta. And I think it was Max Planck originally who discovered quanta, these packets of energy, which again are discontinuous. This is Uranian energy. And so really quantum physics has been going for over 100 years. I'm not sure it's taught in schools yet, but and then a little later, this is in 1927 to 28, Niels Bohr discovered that light is both a wave and a particle. And Uranus seems very connected to light. And that's going to be very interesting going forwards because there was another discovery. I think at that time, Uranus was in Gemini trying to Pluto, I believe at that time. And I think that was around 1690, and there was a Dutch scientist called Huygens, and he discovered a whole new theory around light and the waves of light. I think we are going to discover 10 tons about light going forwards, particularly when there's yet another trine between Jupiter, between Uranus moving into Gemini, 25, 26, and it's starting to trine Pluto in Aquarius, as we had way back in the late 1600s, because light is carried by water, as I understand, and we know the amazing work with water that is going on with people like Randy Hatton, Veda Austin, etc. I think that's a whole new world. That's a whole new world as well. I think we're going to discover a lot about plasma physics and really how we create our reality, which is what I find incredibly exciting, how we understand plasma in a bigger way, light in a bigger way, and how we mold the modeling clay of plasma to create manifestation in our world. That's super exciting. Further in space, greater understanding of the cosmos, and even the discovery of the dwarf planets. And I know on average that was around about 20 years ago for many of them, but I think that's going to take another big jump and a further jump, perhaps, further out in deep space. Seismic activity. Many of you may remember in 2010, there was also the Icelandic volcano that erupted. Remember it really clearly because there was the volcanic ash cloud, and that really hampered growth of food at that time because the sun was dimmed for quite some weeks, as I remember it, and aviation became very disjointed and limited at that time. You know, again, aviation, Uranus, aviation. And I believe there were also other big earthquakes in Japan, New Zealand at that time. So this, you know, this increase in seismic activity could be a possibility, particularly because there seems to be a link with the peak in the solar cycle, which is happening right now for solar cycle 25, and a further destabilization of the ionosphere, which appears to be linked to more seismic activity. Because I guess at the end of the day, everything's connected. You know, the inner core of the Earth's crust, you know, everything is connected in layers. There's no separation. Another theme is how this is going to change the socioeconomic structure, because remember, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is going to reinforce so many of the themes that I've spoken about with Pluto in Aquarius, and I'll put the video about Pluto in Aquarius below, because this conjunction is going to reinforce all of them, because Jupiter, planet of expansion, is expanding the ruler of Aquarius at this conjunction. So certainly, and again, I've mentioned this elsewhere, if we look back to what happened in 1789, Pluto in Aquarius, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction after the monarchy was, well, the monarch was beheaded and it was the end of the monarchy and France became a republic. Over the coming years, there was a radical change in the socio-economic structure. A lot of the tax benefits that had been given to the very rich, the aristocrats, were now given to ordinary people. Small farms started up, small businesses, small enterprises, and this really began for the very first time what's known as a middle class, because before that there'd just been the rulers and the ruled and nothing in between. So this was really revolutionary. You know, think revolutionary with socioeconomic structures, think revolutionary with food production and farming, think revolutionary with the way we organize our finances and economics. But I think, and it is going to, society will become more equitable, not ever equal, but certainly more equitable in its tax structure, I believe. And it's not going to happen in a week, you know, a month, but it is gradually going to be this shift of power to the people, that we are stepping back into our sovereignty, into our inner power peacefully. And remember, this is not going to be handed to us on a plate. It is not going to be handed to us on a plate. We have to step into that sense of sovereignty, which is something I talk about in pretty much every video. in order for that to happen. But that's an inner shift. No, it's an inner shift of energy. It's an inner shift of focus, and an inner shift of frequency, actually, to say, I absolutely know who I am, why I'm on this earth, what I'm meant to do, what my unique contribution, Uranus, is to the greater whole, to the community. And it's very much reinforcing service to others, this conjunction, because Uranus and Aquarius are altruistic. They are all about the community, the greater whole. They're not intrinsically about service to self in the way that we've had it in the past. So that, I think, is really exciting. I think this is going to boost our sense of multidimensionality as well, because with this awakening, the Kundalini activation, with this explosion of consciousness, yeah, it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be fast. It's going to be exciting. Don't expect it to be stable. Find your stability within yourself. Bare feet on the grass. Stillness. Drop into the breath. All the things we've talked about. You are your stability. You are your center. You are your anchor. I just want to mention a couple of other things, and I am making absolutely no. I'm giving no opinion. I'm making no political statement whatsoever, because people jump on comments and think I'm making, some political comment. I am absolutely not. I am an astrological messenger. So but what this can bring about is this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Things will not stay the same either with this country or with these two people I'm going to mention. They will not stay the same, because it can be very positive, but it is most certainly a change of situation, let's say, change of circumstances or a change of situation in some way that can be quite sudden and quite radical. This is conjunct the sun, S-U-N, of Israel. Israel's sun is at 23 degrees of Taurus. So I'll put the details of the chart for Israel below, so the astrologers can go and look at that chart. But that, I think, is very interesting. This conjunction is also conjunct our current British Prime Minister's sun, S-U-N. He has his sun at super close to this, 3 minutes of exactitude away, 2152 of Taurus. It is also conjunct the midheaven, which is, in an individual, it's their reputation or their status or their visibility in the world, that kind of thing, of Donald Trump. His midheaven is at 24 of Taurus. So again, no political view whatsoever. It's an observation, and we sit on our eagle's perch in divine neutrality, and we watch how this unfolds. Astrology is fabulous for cultivating neutrality, perspective, because we are always the drone flying over the busy New York street at rush hour, seeing the pulses of quiet times busy, quiet times rush hour, quiet times rush hour, and it has order, whereas at a lower level there is disorder. I'm not really interested in 3D. I'm interested in offering you this higher perspective that astrology gives us, because it helps so much to get beyond the division, the separation, the judgment in any situation, because we're going to need to do that as we shift into higher dimensions. We've got to leave all that old stuff behind. The judgment, the division, the separation, the I'm right, you're wrong. Because it's only really, I think, ego that makes us want to be right. Because if we can go beyond that a little, it's okay. It's okay for you to have a different view, and ultimately we are moving towards unity consciousness, which will be wonderful. And through this conjunction, which reinforces Pluto in Aquarius, and remember, it's just not for one day, it's a whole trigger point for what's to follow, we are really going to start to understand that consciousness produces matter. Consciousness produces matter. And really would love all of you listening to this to start to become masters of your frequency in all the simple ways that I talk about and many other people talk about. Because, there's another possibility with Pluto in Aquarius is that, there's control by technology. That's a very obvious timeline, but there are many timelines. We don't have to live on that timeline. We don't have to be anywhere near that timeline, because we are learning to master our own thinking, our own emotional set, our own frequency, in order that we are constantly creating higher and higher timelines. And we are doing this. You in even listening to this, me in speaking about it, we're doing it. We're coming together on a Sunday in that 15-minute meditation. We're doing it when you come together and other people in other meditations, when you can even just even when you're alone walking in nature, if you can raise your frequency, you're doing it, because that's feeding back to the collective. In every moment, we've got to start to live this sense of, I am safe, I'm free, I am welcoming in, we are welcoming in an expanded sense of consciousness, an expanded, loving consciousness into our world. And that's the timeline we're going to be on moving forwards. And this Jupiter-Uranus is going to help us a ton to do that. So I hope that's clarified a little. For sure, I'm going to be adding to this, and lots of other astrologers are going to be talking about this too, absolutely, because it is one of the biggest aspects of the year. But I hope that's given you an inkling of what we're moving towards, and we are already starting to feel that energy, because we're already moving into the eclipse energy that's a precursor for this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. God bless. Hope that's helped you. Bye for now. Be back soon.